What's going on, everyone? This is the Raikazi here. Today I wanted to go ahead and bring you guys a new type of video because one thing that I wanted to do for a really long time, but I haven't really known how I was going to get into it, but now I think I've gotten the way how I wanted to get it done. So with the actual franchise of Pokemon, the way how it's been over the past 20 years, we've been using the handheld devices and going at the same type of RPG style turn by turn, and supposedly things are going to be changing for when it moves over to the Switch. So before we actually close out the long running era of how we've been playing the game, I decided to let's go ahead and start doing our top fives in terms of bringing back the nostalgia, starting all the way back from Gen 1. So what we're going to do is do a top five today of my 5 favorite Pokemon from Gen 1. And for those that are not actually playing Pokemon necessarily, but they're only typically playing Pokemon Go, this will be something that they can also watch as well because they're getting into the generations as they go. I believe they're only up to like Gen 3 or something like that. I don't play Pokemon Go, but that's what I believe is where you all are at. And don't forget, everyone, this is just based on my opinion. So if you have a different opinion, mine's right. I'm joking. I'm just saying that, we're all entitled to our own opinions here. We'll see how your rankings line up with mine. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hit into that countdown. Alright, so taking up the 5th spot. So this was a hard choice to actually figure out who was actually going to make the top 5 here. And the Pokemon that I have decided to take this number 5 spot is Starmie. Now, I am definitely a Pokemon battler that does a lot of different competitive styles of battles. And Starmie was always the Pokemon that I could bring to the table that was completely versatile. I mean, you got this water psychic type Pokemon that can use Surf, Thunderbolt, Ice Beam. Back in the day, though, when you had, it seemed as though you had better accuracy. I was using Surf, Thunder, Blizzard. I was going crazy all out and Recover. Then as time went on, the generations changed. I started changing up the move pool and things like that. But it was always designed to defeat other water types and things. And Starmie was always one of my go-to Pokemon to try to offset whenever they send out grass types even as well. So I always loved Starmie. It just so diverse, and so that's why I actually choose Starmie. Its design is actually pretty interesting because you got pretty much it's almost like 2 Staryus smashed together, but then it's also changing color and then just kind of offset, so it's not just completely straight back to back. And then the back of it actually can spin. So I wonder how it even feels when it spins that, but that's a whole nother theory to even worry about. But yeah, so there we go. Number 5 spot is Starmie. This was a tough one. I've actually had to do some soul searching to actually choose this number 4 spot because it was always higher up, but then I actually ended up bringing it back down a little bit, and I didn't want to have any ties, so I had to actually give each Pokemon their own specific spot. So number 4 spot, we have Articuno. That pained me a little bit when I even said that because Articuno was usually higher on my list, but it did actually get brought down a little. It was brought down a little bit. Articuno was that Pokemon that, as I played through the game for the very first time, and I'm going through those around Cinnabar Island, going through the caves and things like that, surfing through those waters. Next thing you know, I walk up upon this bird Pokemon. Had no idea what was happening. And next thing you know, this angelic bird just is sitting in front of me. And I'm like, it's a wild Articuno. Okay. Had no idea it was even a one-off thing, but I made sure I caught it. Then when I get to the Pokemon League, then we got these dragons that I'm having trouble with, and I send out Articuno. Ice Beam, done? Yo, I gotta tell you, Articuno began to just take me by storm at that moment. Then when you got the Pokemon the second movie, and you got Articuno, and I promise you guys, Articuno was the only one of the legendary birds that was not actually captured. Because Moltres was captured, Zapdos was captured, and then Articuno resisted it. And I still, to this day, think that Zapdos, and Moltres had to tag team up on Articuno because back at that point, ice attacks were super effective on both Moltres and Zapdos. So technically, Articuno was, even though it was weak to all of their attacks, was able to take them out as well with a pure, bona fide Blizzard. And I love my Articuno. I know people don't tend to like ice types. I'm not an ice person myself, but out of the legendary birds, Articuno is my favorite, and it is number 4. Now, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and hit the next one. Alright, here we are for our number 3 spot, and for this position, I grant it to Nidoking. Nidoking was always my boy. When I actually first evolved the Nidorino, because you only had a certain number of Moonstones that you can get in the game. When I first evolved it and that Titan just appeared in front of me, I was like, yo, what did I just get? And then when I was able to ascent it out in battle, you see this behemoth of a monster just is under your control, able to learn Thunderbolt, able to learn Ice Beam, Earthquake. Yo, this Pokemon was a beast. And I always loved using my Nidoking. And even to this day, I still use Nidoking. Of course, I can't use it really physically. Not really, you sometimes can, but don't really use it physically anymore. But special attack, definitely. Nidoking is a versatile monster that is able to take on a lot of different Pokemon. Use it right, he always treats you well. Our number 3 spot belongs to Nidoking. Alright, number 2. And you all should already know these Pokemon here that I'm going to be selecting, especially for like number 2 and number 1. Our number 2 spot belongs to none other than Arcanine. Now, Arcanine, it is known as the legendary Pokemon. It is the Pokemon that is purely loyal to you. Growlithe, Arcanine, these Pokemon will follow you to the ends of the earth because they trust you as their trainer. They create that bond. And I always love dogs. Always love dogs. And you got best believe dogs are always going to be somewhere in my top favorites in some form or fashion. And Arcanine definitely took the cake. Oh my gosh, that puppy, beautiful. And its mane, its fur, everywhere, the way how it just, especially when it learned extreme speed. If you ever seen the episode when you had the Arcanines just using the extreme speed, how they're just flying through the grass and everything like that. Arcanine is just an amazing Pokemon, especially when it comes to being competitive as well. The Intimidate, extremely versatile as well. You can teach it Wild Charge to go against water Pokemon. You can breed it to know close combat. You can breed it to know Morning Sun to heal its own health. Flare Blitz is extremely powerful fire attack. I have about 3 or 4 different Arcanines. One shiny, physically offensive. Another one is actually specially offensive. One is completely defensive, which is amazing that I was able to create one. And then another one that I brought from the past that was always just physically offensive. But my gosh, Arcanine is definitely number 2 spot. Great loyal Pokemon. Love its design. Amazing, amazing, amazing. That's my number 2 spot. Now, before we reveal the number 1 Pokemon, we're going to talk about some honorable mentions. And we have 3 Pokemon that actually made it as our honorable mentions that were not able to quite make it to our top 5, but they were so close and I had to debate to see who could actually make it to that spot. So one of these 3 Pokemon is Charizard. Now, Charizard is widely known by almost everybody. And honestly, I wonder if whether or not that influenced me a little bit as I was growing up. But anytime when I'm calling out an attack just randomly, because I just do that sometimes, I always think about Charizard most of the time. But the thing is, though, he's not one of my favorites. And I don't know what ended up leading to that, but Charizard is definitely, though, a great lore from the anime, a great lore in just how he was also my very first Pokemon, because Charmander was the first Pokemon I ever chose to be the game. So there's that bond that I've always had with Charizard. Another one that made it to our runner-up list, we have Jolteon. Jolteon was just always an amazing Pokemon. I love its design. the spiky body, the electrical attacks, the speed, everything about Jolteon. I wasn't able to make it as competitive as I wanted to back in Gen 1 because there was no Shadow Ball at that point in time, so you kind of were limited on the moves. But I always used to have it learn Pin Missile because, I mean, the spikes, gotta use it. Always loved that. Even though it was a weak attack, I always just loved it for some reason. And so that's why Jolteon takes, it was so close but didn't actually make it to the next level. And finally we have Golem. Golem was another one of our runner-ups. Always loved the fact that it can just, for some reason, I just love the fact it rolled. I don't know what it was about it, but it was a heavy Pokemon, able to use that Earthquake beautifully. Whenever you had to use Rollout in like Pokemon Stadium, you saw it actually use its own body as opposed to it being some type of animated boulder. You actually saw Golem's body do the roll, and the fact that they were able to sometimes use the actual Pokemon to do an actual move, I just love that for some reason. Those are my 3 runner-ups, honorable mentions that didn't quite make it to our top 5. All right, now it's time for us to reveal our #1 favorite Pokemon from Gen 1. If you guys don't know what it is, seriously, y'all really don't know right now? You really don't know yet? Come on. Our #1 Pokemon is Raichu. So from the very moment we had the Electric Shock Showdown episode, and when Lieutenant Surge just called out for him to use the Thunderbolt to shut everything down, you saw Raichu's rage, his fangs, and he just shocked the entire field. That was the pure power that I always loved to see. Raichu, a mouse Pokemon of the electric element. Raichu is the evolved form of Pikachu. It can shock with more than 100,000 volts, enough to render a Dragonite unconscious. That is the episode when Raichu was introduced into the anime. Loved Raichu, the tail, the Thunderbolt design on its tail, the little twirl in its ear. Raichu was always and forever will be my favorite Pokemon of all time. And once I was even able to get it with Surf, you better believe Raichu was on every single tournament battle that I had. And I even had friends that had a Venusaur, and we had a battle, and my Raichu defeated their Venusaur from full health. Thunder, paralyzed, fully paralyzing. Then after a while, I went for a Hyper Beam, ended the match. My boy Raichu always took the cake. Love Raichu. I can never get enough of Raichu. I got like tons of items over or behind me of all about Raichu, and I have even a glass Pokeball here. I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but it has a Raichu inside of it. Love it. Love it. Love it. So that is that. All right, so there you guys now see my top 5 Pokemon for the first generation. So if you guys are enjoying this type of content, you would like to see the future generations and things of that nature, make sure you like, share, subscribe, and let me know in the comments below what your favorite 5 Pokemon are in the first generation. And more videos are going to be coming for the later generations if that's something that you all would like to see. But without further ado, I thank you all for joining me here today. This is going to be the Raikaze signing off. You all know what to do. Stay strong and power on.